School Board meeting, August 10th, 2022 to order. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Ready? Begin. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible.
All right, can we get a roll call, please, Denise?
Yes.
And I just received a message that Director Johnston is going to be here in about 4 minutes, so
Okay.
we'll catch him when he comes in.
Okay. Director Walper,
Here.
Director Martinez,
Here.
Director Berman,
Here.
Director Wheeler,
Here.
Vice Chair Shibahara, Chair Rydell.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right, so we'll start off with B, adoption of the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve or amend the agenda?
Chair Idell, I move to approve the agenda as noticed.
It's been moved. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second and third. All in favor? Raise your right hand. Ms. Director Berman, if you could do an audible for us.
Yay.
Carries.
Motion carries. Okay, so before we get started, I've got I'm gonna get my tissue. So, got a message to read here, so bear with me. Anybody that knows me well, when it comes to stuff like this, I'm a bit of a crier, so I'm gonna do my best to get through it, so we'll pause when I need to. And I'm reading it, obviously, so I have an opportunity to get through it. So the Estacada School Board would like to take a moment now to recognize the loss of a respected member of our community, Tim Shibahara. The board would like to extend our deepest condolences to his family and to those close to him. Tim was a respected father, volunteer, contributor to the Estacada School District and community. His presence and efforts enriched the lives of many children in our school district, and we will remember his positive impact and legacy of his life. Our hearts are with the Shibahara family during this time of grief. All right, deep breath for Ken. Thanks for bearing with me on that, everybody. And we'll go on to item C. So we'll give it just a second here as Director Johnston comes in. So it is that time of year that so every year we elect a board chair and a board vice chair. So it is that time of year that we're going to do that tonight. So we will start off with the board chair. Do we have any nominations? Well, let me back up. We will take nominations for the position. All nominations will be made for the board chair. We'll confirm anybody that's nominated is willing and able to fulfill the responsibilities. We will then vote on the board chair. You can only vote once, so if there's multiple people nominated, you only get one vote. You also cannot vote for yourself. Once that is done, then we will open up nominations for vice chair, and the same rules apply. So everybody good with that? All right, so we will start with board chair. Do we have any nominations for board chair?
Chair Idell, I would like to nominate you for a second year.
All right, thank you. Any other board chair nominations out there? All right. So we will go ahead and take a vote. All in favor? Oh, I will confirm that I am willing and able to serve in that capacity again for a second year. So thank you for the vote of confidence. So let's go ahead and vote. All in voted in, Ken Rydell, Chair Rydell remaining as the board chair. Raise your right hand.
Carries.
This is Joe. I'm raising my hand too. If you can hear me, I'm voting yes.
I don't know if you can hear me.
I just started to hear you just 1 second ago.
But thank you, appreciate that. So thank you, guys. Appreciate your vote of confidence in me retaining or remaining as the board chair. So as always, if there's something you would like to see more of, less of, or different, please let me know, and I am honored to continue to serve in this capacity. So,
Thank you.
all right. So let's open up for vice chair. Any nominations for vice chair?
Chair Rydell, I'd like to nominate Ben Wheeler
Ben
for
Wheeler.
vice chair.
Okay.
Sorry if I need to be in the mic for that. I'd like
Probably.
to nominate Ben Wheeler for the vice chair position.
Okay. So we have Director Wheeler. Any other nominations for vice chair? Okay. Director Wheeler, are you willing and able to serve in this capacity if you were elected?
I am willing and able to serve in this capacity if elected.
Thank you. All right, so we will take a vote. All in favor of Director Wheeler in the vice chair of the board, raise your right hand.
Carries.
Hey, hands up.
All right, I see it. Thank you,
Thanks,
Director Berman. All right,
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
thank
Ben.
you. Thanks for
Stepping in.
serving. Okay, so we are cruising through the agenda here. I didn't see. Oh, there it is. Board of Directors reports. We'll start down with Director Walper.
The only thing I have is the basketball court looks awesome. The field, football field looks really good. Be looking forward to seeing the green on it pretty soon. And I think we need to add one other thing to the Shibahara incident, and that's we keep them in our prayers.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you for that. Vice Chair Wheeler.
Oh, boy. I can speak to the football field a little bit. It's going pretty well. We're coming down to the wire here. Mike, are you going to give a full report on the football field? So I won't steal your thunder then. It's going good though, and it'll come to close when it needs to, and hopefully be on track. Again, lots of community support on that, and that's been the key effort. As far as youth sports go, pretty heavily involved with youth football. We have, as far as I know, a recent record of kids participating in youth football, somewhere around 130 so far, which is about 35 or 40 more than we had last year. And we're expecting another 45 to 50 in flag football on top of that. So that's awesome. I did talk to former board member Helena Snyder, and she said soccer is very much the same. They have 320 kids as of, what was it, last week that she sent that over to us?
Yeah, 320.
300
Yep,
kids.
300.
So, which is also a record number. So, I mean, that's a tell of what's going on in Escada. A lot of good things happening, sports and schools and the community at large. So, other than that, I think I'll stop there.
Okay, thank you. Director Martinez,
No reports.
no report. Director Johnston.
Well, I'm excited. This year I have my first child starting high school, so I'm excited to see that experience and receive some communications, and so we're excited for that first ninth grade year for my eldest son. And then on youth sports side, we are doing fall baseball, which we're 15 players behind last year, which is fine because it's just extra reps for kids that want to play baseball. And hopefully they all went to football or soccer, so that's great. And I got talked into being a football coach, too.
Thank you.
No, yeah, youth sports are going great, and we're excited for the school year. My entire family is really wanting to get the kids out of the house.
I think those sentiments are shared with a lot of folks. So, thank you, Director Johnston. I won't repeat the ones that are covered. I will say I'm excited to have both my students in the same building, so that's always nice when they're on the same schedule and same athletic schedules and extracurricular schedules. So excited about that. A little bummed, first time in 15 years I'm not coaching youth football. But just enjoying the next phase. So thank you, Vice Chair Wheeler, for taking the helm of youth football. And with school not going, not a whole lot there, but I will say the high school performing arts did announce that the musical this winter will be Mary Poppins. So I think they're starting auditions here for that pretty quickly. So I'm excited to see that come together and continue the great tradition of musicals through the high school. So that's all I got.
Chair Idell, can I have one more
Yeah.
second? We haven't had a meeting in a month, and since then, we also commenced regular season baseball for SK Youth Baseball. And I'd like to congratulate Mr. Carpenter and his team on his state run. It was an exciting team to watch. We also had,
Minor National Trevor Cruz.
minor nationals, placed in the top 8 of state, and then at least 4 or 5 other
Half
teams.
of our teams went to county.
Half of the teams went to county. So that means they're in the top echelon of the, the top 8 is what it requires to go to county. And most of those brackets had anywhere from 20 to 30 teams. And they're big schools, they're competitive schools. It's good competitive baseball that SK has. So, and I know softball was very much in the same boat.
If you don't mind.
Yeah, go
I'd
for it.
add. So, out of our 14, number could be wrong, out of our 14 softball teams, we had 2 that took first place in their end of season tournament, 2 that took second place, 3 that took third place, and out of them, 60% of the teams went to the county tournament. Some didn't want to participate. So softball, just like high school softball this year, our softball, youth softball, just really excelled. All the coaches out there put in a lot of time. So appreciate everybody's effort on youth baseball and softball. Thanks for adding that, Ben.
That's it.
Anybody else want to add anything?
Yeah, let's continue on.
I feel a little tennis match going on here, so. All right, thank you, everyone. Moving on to item E, district reports. So first up, I believe, is Maggie Kelly with communications. Come on down, Maggie.
Good evening, school board. It is good to be here after a busy summer. I first want to thank you for your patience as we work through this new boardroom. We are committed to bringing reliable live streams, and we'll continue to work through the kinks and look forward to expanding our audience. We are having a great live stream right now that we do have people viewing it, and again, look forward to testing and working through the remaining issues. For our August communications report, I wanted to first go over some of the projects in progress. We currently are working on a district promotional video. This video will be able to be used to recruit new families, for new families to see what we stand for in the Estacada School District, and of course to recruit new staff as well. So we're busy pulling together a lot of footage and look forward to pulling together some mask-free first day of school footage this year, and are very excited about getting some more footage to use to spread the word of the school district. We're also working on creating a district-wide calendar. Last year, we created a calendar that we distributed to staff that was very heavily used, that had all of the district-wide events like school sorts of things. We've expanded it this year because it was so popular and we got a lot of requests from families. We'll be providing it to families and the community as well this year. And we'll also be featuring school events, so you'll be able to see what's happening at each and every school for all of our families and all of our community members. We partnered with Orchid and some other local nonprofits to bring the cost down so that we were able to provide that many copies without paying additional out of our budget. So we're thankful to that partnership as well. We are also, of course, working on our back-to-school communication. In 2 weeks, we'll have an all-in live featuring Superintendent Carpenter where we can live answer some questions from families. We're also continuing our video series with families and working on many of those back-to-school communications. At the end of next week, we'll also be releasing our bus routes and continuing the transportation communication. And we are also working on stadium preparation. There's a lot of work to go into advertising our future events that we hope the community will join us in, documenting some of the great work that the community has helped us in, and really showcasing that. And also, we have a new scoreboard that we really want to do justice and make a big production of the events that our athletes and community deserve. So we're excited about learning the scoreboard to its full capacity. Some of our completed projects are newspaper edition. This is a back-to-school newspaper edition. It will be released and distributed next Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. We also included a Spanish version of this that we'll be mailing to our Spanish-speaking family homes and available in some of our local stores as well. This is the first year we've done a Spanish edition, and we're really excited about it. And it just includes back-to-school lists, some of those essentials that families really look forward to. We also are waiting to get in, but have ordered some new district signage, just some welcome back signage, as well as some bilingual signage to make our schools welcoming. And to clarify, we're taking down some of our old signage from the past 2 years because things have looked a little different, and updating some of our policies now that things are getting closer to normal. We're also working on and have completed a lot of staffing transitions, making sure our website and communications reflect our new staff members, especially as we have some high-level new staff members like principals and directors. We want to make sure our communications reflect that, and making sure that they have access to all of our communication tools as well, SMORE, Parent Square, our website, and know how to use those so that they can reach out to the community as well. And then lastly, a project that we completed recently was doing some additional transportation recruiting. At the end of every year, we see some retirements, and we did see some retirements from our transportation department. We know that it's sometimes a hard to recruit area, so we featured that on social media, and we had some signage placed out in the community and beyond the community. We also did some advertising at some of our local theaters. And 3 of the positions that we filled over the summer were thanks to our social media and community ad campaigns. So it's fantastic to see that paying off, and we're glad to be able to go into the school year fully staffed. And we look forward to continuing to be creative about hiring people as we move forward. And then lastly, and then any questions you guys have, as we move forward into the next year, I also like to be mindful of what we did within the past year to ensure that we're continuing to improve this upcoming year. So I'll just go through some of these very quickly, but over the past year, from September to June of last year, on Facebook, we reached 47,000 people. Instagram is a new platform that we were able to lean into this year with more capacity in the communications department. We reached 44,000 people, and we reached a younger audience than we ever have before. We're finally engaging some of our middle and high schoolers, as well as some of our younger parents. On YouTube, we had 36,000 views of our videos. On SMORE, which is our newsletter email platform, we had 56,000 views of those newsletters, and that's just the ones that the district sent out. We had 700 more newsletters that were sent out from our buildings, so they are definitely embracing that platform. On Parent Square, another newer communication tool, that's our mass communication when you get a text message or a notification, something like that, a post that's coming from Parent Square. We had 972 posts, which is a 73% increase from the year prior. And we had 76% of our Parent Square contacts opening the post, and that's a 31% increase from the year prior. And then lastly, our media coverage, we had 61 newspaper articles and 14 TV news articles. And I'm going to see if I can hide this. That was a total of $82,000 in earned publicity value. So that means that we didn't pay for any of this. This was earned media. If we were to have to pay for that level of publicity, it would be on average about $82,000. So it's nice that we're able to get into some of our older households commonly use that TV media. So we're proud to be able to bring that to them, and then just expand outside of the reach of Estacada as well. So again, we're always looking at these metrics, tracking them. It's important to look at last year so we can ensure that we're growing this year and continuing to reach more people in and outside of Estacada. Any questions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
being the new guy on the block, I haven't gotten a lot of responses from people, but I want to commend you that I have gotten a number of responses from people in my community saying that the communication here is awesome since you've come aboard. And I don't know how long you've been here, but you're doing a great job.
Thank you, Director Welper. I really appreciate that. And it's good to hear from you guys what is being said out in the community. That's why we value our board of directors so much. You do such a great job of passing the word on from the community, so I really appreciate that.
My community area is very impressed.
Thank you.
Hey, Maggie, by the numbers, it looks like there's 100 views per video. Is there, I'm sure that there's 1,000 on one and 2 on the other, right? I mean, that's just the way it's going to work. So just curious what the community wants to see or what they're engaged in. Is there any way you can look at that and just give a quick summary next month?
Yeah, absolutely. I will say just off the top of my head, some of the smaller ones are videos that we release internally to a small group, so they're not as public, but our top videos are our Fire Up videos where we're engaging with kids and some of those big events like graduation, concerts. Really what we found is while we are all very interesting, anything with the kids just gets a lot more engagement. So we're trying to really lean into that, but I can do a more thorough
No,
report.
I think that's fine. Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, great question. All right,
Any other questions for Maggie?
thank you.
Perfect, thank you. Next up, building and facilities report. Come on down, Mike.
All right, good evening. For your operations report, we'll start off with our capital improvement projects that we are conducting within the district. First with our stadium improvement project, our artificial turf. We've had a very busy summer. Luckily, the weather has been in our favor since about end of May. And we've been able, for the most part, we've been able to complete a lot of tasks and check a lot of boxes, from the CTB, the roll test of the concrete treatment, which is a very specialized process, to the curbing and the flat work, our lighting system, our scoreboard, and our flag system, and then the final civil work has been completed. We are now into the crunch time of getting the field turf actually sewed into the ground. And kind of this is where we're at current status. We had a bit of a complication with the field turf company from a prior school that they're working on, and unfortunately pushed our start date about 5 days back. It was initially supposed to start on the 8th, and it's now going to start on Friday, the 11th, I believe? 12th. The 12th. Still takes 10 to 12 days to complete, which is relatively quick and puts us in good timeline to start our first soccer game, home soccer game, and then our home football game on September 2nd. Scoreboard actually arrived today and is installed, and that's a good picture of it from the field. Luckily, though, that was on time, and now we're waiting on the power side of it, and that's when electricity will be connected later this week on Thursday and Friday. PGE is ready to actually set power. We have a meter base set up and ready to go, so we just got to flip the switch, and that should be happening in the next couple days. And then we'll be able to test our scoreboard and test our lighting system, which I'm very excited about. Painting is on schedule, is actually in progress with the change in our turf schedule. We put the painters inside the stadium so that they could focus on that area and be out of the way of the turf installers. We have our final flat work in progress, which is on the northeast side of the stadium to be able to have another access point. We are adding a retaining wall, and that is in progress as well. Our lights are in progress. As you see, they are up. They're just not powered up. So now that we have the meter base installed and green tagged, PGE is coming out, and then the final electrical work will be done with the lighting system. Fencing will start next week, and then as well as our hedge cleanup, our bird netting, and our asphalt. So a lot of different things that need to still get buttoned up in the next 3 weeks, and then our final grounds work. So again, a lot of things done, but we are working as a team. Again, thanks to our community members who are supporting, saving us over $500,000 of district resources. This has really been a fun project, and it has its kinks, but we were able to push through and get through those challenges day by day. Our gym floor is nearly complete. It's about 95% complete. Really, all that's left is the threshold. This is a picture from above in the actual gym. Very pleased the way this turned out. You can just see from the picture here that the wood is a lighter maple, so it makes that room lighter in general. As we know, we have no windows, and we are going to be upgrading lighting in here, but the floor is just beautiful, and then if you get a chance to go look at it, next week volleyball starts and can practice on that gym floor, and we'll be getting the threshold in the next few days as well. So very pleased with the project. A little delayed. Weather was a factor. As you all remember, in June we had some higher humidity rates in our high school, which prevented us to move forward. That's the reason why we're in August and just completing this project. In nutrition services, I'd like to announce we do have a new leader within our department. Kyla Portwood has been hired as our nutrition services coordinator. She brings a lot of excitement and energy to the department. We're very excited for her to be a part of the team. One of our first big events was the 4th of July parade, where she came out and dressed up as a banana, I believe, or is that, no, a mustard bottle. But had a lot of engagement and interaction with students and family, community members. The summer food program, which she's been leading, has over 14 programs that we're serving, 2 different locations, and we've served over 3,000 meals to our community. So a big win for us being able to support our community during the summer for much needed meals. Operations, we're going through some renovations and improvements. The main reason why we're bringing our technology department over to operations, where the bus barn is as well, and the main why is because our Estacada High School is growing, and they need every space they can have for teaching and learning. As you all may be aware, that our technology department is located, or was located, in room 1. That is now being converted into a classroom. So I'm excited to bring them over to operations so we can collectively and collaboratively work together. And our service is still going to be there, but we're excited to have them be relocated in a new space and to still be able to support our stakeholders and our students. We also completed some wash station improvements. And again, if you're familiar with the area, it was a little bit beat up and needed some TLC, which we just added a new concrete pad. We have completed our E-rate project for 2022, which is installing single-mode fiber at the high school. Essentially, this turns our internet into 10 Gs. And prior to being able to do this, we were at a 1 G speed. It would bottleneck our services. So this improves connectivity and accessibility for our students and teachers. And then we're in the second phase of installing our access points at the elementary schools, again, improving connectivity and accessibility for our students there. Very excited. Again, E-rate is a part of a reimbursement program, so we are only paying 20% of the total cost towards this. So big kudos to our technology director and department. Summer cleaning and maintenance. Superintendent and I had the opportunity to walk through our schools this week. Over 190 work orders were completed in terms of preventative maintenance, health and safety, and repairs. Our custodial staff are hard at work of getting our classrooms and our hallways and our schools in general ready for teaching and learning on August 29th. Very pleased with the progress, very happy and very much happy about what they have been able to do over the summer. And then finally, our Transportation Services Department. We are finally fully staffed in this department, thanks to our Communications Department and some different tactics that the district has been able to employ. So very excited that this means that we're going to be able to save costs on chartering out trips for sports and other events. And we're now beginning our routing process. And routing will look a little bit different for our community this year as we go in and we expand and need to serve more students than the 750 square miles that we serve. So we are making some adjustments there. But again, this is just a big win to be able to celebrate that we're fully staffed and be able to take care of all the needs that we need to in the transportation department. And finally, we're working with our communications department as well as our transportation department to the re-implementation of the MyView app. We say re-implementation because at the beginning of 2019, we had an application for parents to track their student on the bus to and from school. So we know, and it's a safety measure as well for the district. We got away from it, and now it's time to get back into it. It's a different app as well, so we need to do some re-education, re-communication, and marketing of this application to support this initiative. And that's your operations report for tonight. Any questions?
Yeah, I've got one.
Okay.
I would like to see, and it probably is going to come from Christina, how we're doing to budget on capital projects. What have we spent towards the capital project, and what are we anticipating to spend? Just so that we can see what's on track, how we're doing. If there's anything that's going to sneak up and bite us, we want to know about it. So I would like to see that.
Definitely get you that information.
I don't have a question, but I just wanted to commend four specific individuals, Debbie, John, Randy, and Scott. Throughout the whole baseball season, youth baseball takes care of the dirt, but your team has gone above and beyond to help make sure that we bring community members from all over Clackamas County, in fact, all over the state, to play baseball and softball in Estacada, and they're all wowed at how the fields look.
Thank you.
Thanks to your staff for all their hard work.
I'll pass that along. Thank you, Director Johnson.
I have a couple. To kind of piggyback on Director Walper's question, years ago when we started talking about bonds, we had the tier 1, 2, and 3 projects. How often do we look at that and update it? I mean, or is it a continual thing that things are moving from tier 2 to tier 1? And I'm not using the right word, am I?
It's close to, yes, tier 1, tier 2. Level 1, level 2 is, yeah. We look at it frequently, and we are in the process of evaluating, what we want to continue to do with this document. It really comes into play in the budgeting season of what's next, what's in that level 1 that we really need to address, and how can we allocate funds appropriately through capital or other resources. So it's a living document that we still use. It is a few years older, and so I think as a district, we are considering trying to figure out if we want to update that. If we intend to move forward on a bond in one day, that's going to be helpful for us as well.
If as part of the Awesome Grant, we have to have an updated, that's part of that
Correct.
Submission for that, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
We would need to renew that, though, because it's just, I think, 1 year outdated. Is that correct, Director Irish?
Yeah, that is correct. We would need to get an updated one,
Yeah.
and we could apply for a grant for that as of January 1st, if board approves.
The Awesome Grant is January 1st?
No, we could get a TAP grant to go for the facilities assessment and the long-range planning grant. There's two different ones that we would need in order to get the Awesome Grant.
Then when is that Awesome Grant deadline up?
It depends on when the board would like to go out for a bond. If it would be next November, we would need to have it in early summer. I think May, June, if I think, right?
And
Yeah.
as in next, it'd be in the 20,
Well, if it's
23.
I know if it's in November, it's in the summer. I don't know if we go out in May. I don't remember the time. It's probably early spring, earlier spring, yeah.
I know we've been kind of kicking that can for many, many moons, trying to figure out what we want to do in the direction we need to go, but it's something that we need to have a hard conversation on again eventually. And tonight's definitely not the night, but we can kick it down till next meeting at least. Back on your report, though, I had two things. You mentioned charter buses for long trips. If it stays in-house, how does that selection process work for bus drivers? Is it pure seniority, or is it you throw your hat in the ring and you might get it, or how does that work?
Yeah, trips are done by seniority. I'm sorry, no, it's done by an elected that they want to. We don't force them to be trip drivers. We do have 2 relief drivers on staff that are dedicated for trips, but if they're tied up, then we go through basically a sign-up process. Yep,
Perfect.
yep.
And then the other thing was moving the tech group over to operations.
Yes.
How does a typical tech call, like if my computer went on the fritz right now,
Yeah.
and I'm in a classroom teaching 2nd grade
Yeah.
at Clackamas River, how does that go down?
Yeah, so we've implemented a new system last year. It's called Boots on the Ground. So 2 of our tech support people are at schools throughout the week and the entire day. So they're out roaming around, and luckily our district is not that big. So if they're at CRE and something happens at River Mill, we're able to respond quickly if it's an immediate need. We have a help desk ticketing system to be able to see that and navigate quicker if we needed to. And actually, it's a very intuitive system to let us solve the problem quicker. But the boots on the ground is really our main tactic, where we actually have our tech support in the schools throughout the school day.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good job, Mike.
All right. Anything else for Mike? Awesome, thank you. And finance. Christina, you're up.
Good evening, Board. I hope you enjoyed your summer, and I'm happy to be back in front of you. The first information I'm going to share with you is we're going to go back in time a little bit and look at June 30th reports. This is as of July 30th. I wanted to give the board a final update. We are still wrapping up our school year. We're currently working in both years, paying the final invoices and getting everything closed. So at this time, we did receive revenue for June in the amount of $318,000. We paid expenditures of $5.3 million. Our year-to-date revenue is $40.3 million, and our year-to-date expenditures is $33.12. You can see there, we do still have some encumbered as of July 31st, some open POs of $1,085,000. So our fiscal year projection for revenue is $40.3 million. Our fiscal year projection for expenditures is $34.41 million, and I'm projecting an ending fund balance of $5,850,500. And that will give us a spend down of just over $1.4 million of our ending fund balance.
And just to clarify, because again, the revenue still exceeded the expenses by almost $6 million. So that's coming out of the previous beginning fund balance.
Yes,
So it's
correct.
not, we didn't spend more than we brought in this year.
Yeah,
It's kind
so-
of coming out of our reserve.
Correct.
Right. So if you take 40 million and you take our beginning fund balance of that, it's about, our beginning fund balance was 7 million. So our actual incoming revenues was less than our outgoing expenditures by 1.4 million. Yeah. Here's a graph showing you our how our revenue is tied out. Our state sources is 60% of our revenue. And then our local service sources, which is our property taxes and our local revenue, is 20%. This is a comparison to last year at this time. The big thing I wanted to show here, last year we were projecting to add 3.3 million to our ending fund balance. And as I mentioned earlier, this current year we're reducing our ending fund balance by 1.4 million. And this
Really
is
quick, I'm sorry, one
Yeah.
more question. So that expected expenditures also includes what dollar amount that we approved for the turf field?
That's gonna, I do have that's in later.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Yep, and I do have that, and I hope that answers your question too, Director Walpert. Here you, oops, let me change it. Nope, I'm going backwards. Okay, here's our budget to actuals. You can see in our instructional services, we had a revenue of 22.9 million. Our year-to-date, we're at 94% of that, and our year-to-date plus encumbrances is the 94%. For our support services, our budget was just over 12.6 million. We spent year-to-date 90.9 million of that, and our year-to-date parts, our encumbrances is 93.5%. And then the final one that I show you is the other uses, which is our transfers. We're going to be doing 100% of our transfers. And then this right here is by major object. A comparison to last year at this time. You can see our revenue. We did receive 1.2 million more revenue this year than last year. A lot of that is in our beginning fund balance then, again, though. And then our expenditures we spent 819,000 more. I keep going the wrong way, I apologize. Our year-to-date expenditures by major objects, our salaries were 36%, our associated payroll costs were 20%, and our purchase services, or our contracts, were at 39%, and that does include our charter school payments. So 95% of our year-to-date expenditures are payroll or contracted cost. And then for our capital projects, and this is where our turf fund is being spent, we had the budget of 2.5 million, which 2 million of it was allocated for the turf. Our month-to-date revenue was 184,000. Our year-to-date revenue was just over 3 million, and that includes the beginning fund balance of 2.3 million. And our fiscal year projection was, again, the 3 million. Our year-to-date expenditures, in June, we spent 428,000. Our year-to-date expenditures was 1.2 million. We still did have some encumbrances as of July 31st of 454,000. So we're projecting to spend 1.6 million. So we are projecting to spend some of the turf field in the current year that didn't get spent by June 30th. So that leaves us with an ending fund balance of 1.4 million. So
this is just the
capital projects funds. Mhm.
capital projects
So
or just the field?
capital projects, which does include the field. 2 million of the capital projects was allotted for the turf field.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have, I mean, in the resource buckets or the numbers, the coding, are in-kind donations part of this that we allocated as time or labor into something that's taken into account in this document?
No, in-kind donations is not a revenue that we see. It's an offsetting of an expense we did not have to take.
We are, however, collecting that information to tell the story.
Yes.
Okay, great.
But it will not show up on our general ledger, correct?
On the actual.
Let's have a whole nother page that
Yes.
just says that.
For sure.
Yes, exactly, because it is just as important.
Yeah.
Which at this point, as we said, in this project has already been exceeded $500,000 of
amazing.
in-kind donation, labor, and support. Yeah.
Amazing.
So it is early in the new year, but I did want to kind of give you the information that we have on that. So our working budget, our revenue is 40,319,561. In July, we did receive 4.4 million. Part of that is our state school fund, and in July, we do receive a double payment for our state school fund, so that 4,391,000 is a double payment. And then our expenditures is 1.2 million. Our year-to-date will match our July because we're in our first month. So then our projection, at this time, I'm projecting that we will collect all of the revenue we budgeted. And then our expenditures are just over 36 million, projecting an in-fund balance of just over 4 million, which again will be a spend down of almost 1.4 million.
Just out of curiosity,
Yeah.
a lot of projections here.
Yes.
So I'm just kind of curious, new kid on the block again, okay? No, I'm not going to be able to say that much longer. How have we done over the years, maybe the last 5 years, with our projection versus actual at the year end?
Great question. And I can give more information. And the reason why at this point is that our projections, you can see the majority of our cost are our payroll costs, our associated payroll, and our contracts. And at the beginning of the year, we're still recognizing all that. In our September, that's when the majority of our payroll will be encumbered. And so after the September board report, we will have, our projections will feel a little more accurate because we'll have encumbered everyone. And then also by then, we will have majority of our open POs, our contracts. That's when secretaries then come in and start really determining what they're going to pay for the remaining of the year. So then the only thing that's left are the big surprises that come in or the have-tos. So I project probably about in November, our projections are a little bit more ironed in. Does that answer your question?
A little bit.
Yeah.
And one thing you can look at is the budget to actual. So actually the bar graph that you went through before, that's a great way just to look at, this is what we budgeted because that was our projections and where did we land with that? And it's, within a couple percent, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
So we have to set the budget. When do we have to approve the budget for this year? It was like in June?
Yeah,
right? So off of numbers that we don't know. But
I
that's a great way to
started
look at it.
building that budget in March, yeah.
So.
I can tell you with some bluntness a little bit that, first of all, Christina Irish is relatively new, and so we don't necessarily have a 3, 4, or 5-year track record based on the way that she's budgeted her projections. But in my 4 completed years now as your superintendent, we have always been on the conservative side to make sure that we never overspend our allocations. And so I would say in general, we've always been between 800 and 1.2 million, 800,000 or $1.2 million underspent. So our end fund balance ends up being about 800,000 to 1.2 million more than we had projected, which is, I'd rather err on that side than on the other side.
Yeah.
That's been my experience in 4 years.
As long as you can just explain it, that's
For
great.
sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
great question. So with our projected revenue, you'll see here that 66% is budgeted, is the state school source, with the other 19% is our local sources, which this year does include our athletic fees, which we did bring to our general fund, so I just wanted to point that out. And then our other sources, which is our beginning fund balance, which is 13%. And this is a look at last year at this time. Last year, our projected ending fund balance early on was 4.1 million, and this year we're projecting for just over 4 million. And our budget to actuals report, you can see here we're still, our budget for instructional services is 23.6 million. Our year-to-date expenditures is just 2.9% of that. Our year-to-date plus our encumbrances is 63.8%. For our support services, our budget is 12.7 million. Our year-to-date is 4.6% of that, and our year-to-date plus encumbrances is 51.5%. And a look at last year at this time, looks like last year we had not recognized the July revenue at this point, but we have recognized 4.4 million for this year. Our year-to-date expenditures, our month-to-date expenditures is 1.1 million for last year and 1.3 million for this year. Our salaries are projected to be 25% of all of our expenditures. Our associated payroll costs are projected to be 13%, and our purchase services at this time are 55%, which is 90, those three are 93% of our expenditures. And then capital projects for this year, We did give ourselves an additional budget to finish the turf field, so we have a 2.2 million or 2.3 million budget. We did receive revenue of 76,000 and are projected to end with 2.2 million. Our year-to-date expenditures is 51,000. We have encumbered 312,000. We're projecting to spend 1.5 million, which will leave us about 787,000. And the one other thing I wanted to point out, we did budget for the interfund transfer from the general fund in there for this year.
Okay.
In that part of that. And that is all I have.
Part of that 787,000 in under, that's the donations and such from people that have given us.
If we received an actual check, correct.
What about labor and such? We're not calculating that.
Yeah, the labor is an in-kind donation, and we don't recognize that on our general fund. We do recognize it as a separate thing, but it is not recognized in our books because we don't have to recognize the expenditure either.
But it will show up in our books as less expenses.
Yes.
So that's where we do see it. It's just, it's not a line item in the finances because
Yes.
it doesn't belong there.
Correct.
So that's my question. Are these numbers reflecting what we anticipate we're going to save, or are we still reflecting the original balance that we anticipated spending?
This is our actual
Okay,
cost.
perfect. Thank you. That's what I wanted to make sure of.
Yep.
We have a enrollment, as it were, currently is.
As of the end of last
What
year,
we're looking like for re-registration for.
I will
fiscal
give you, yeah, the first enrollment report will be after the start of school.
I can tell you that without seeing the students' eyes in the seats, that currently River Mill Elementary is at 479, which is the largest it's ever been. And Clackamas River Elementary School, I think, is at 426, which is also large. So we, as anticipated, are going to have capacity issues at our elementary school. Thankfully, preemptively, we've placed 4 additional classrooms, portable spaces to handle that growth. But River Mill will be at capacity, probably +1. And Clackamas River will be at capacity -1 because we're having a pre-kindergarten class in one of the classrooms at Clackamas River. But it's big.
That, just because that's off the top of your head, is that just re-registration? That's not kids walking off, parents walking?
Correct.
Yeah.
It's pre-registration and the kids we know are returning. There's a lot that can happen within 3 weeks, especially at the kindergarten, first grade levels. I will tell you right now that these numbers are with, at this point, a low kindergarten number. And so in the next couple weeks, we expect that to get bigger, not smaller.
Let's go.
Yes, we're ready.
And we've already budgeted for additional hires.
Yes and no. Again, we try to do that conservatively. I want to make sure that we have the kids before we write the paycheck. And so we have just authorized, as of last week, the hiring of an additional elementary school teacher at River Mill to support that growth. And that's being paid for, by the way, out of student investment accounts, the CAT tax. Thank you, Mr. Wheeler, for your business's support in that. And Director Martinez, thank you. Yes.
We appreciate all you're doing.
Yeah.
All right.
Question on the teacher front. Q School, I believe is what it's affectionately called.
Yes.
We had floater teachers essentially, right? There were, can you just elaborate on that, and are we continuing the program?
Yes, at this point, we are no longer moving forward with the quarantine school, Q School, and that was the service students who were required to do a mandatory 10-day quarantining process. We wanted to make sure that our service was still available to those students through that. And this year, based on the new initiatives from the state, or lack thereof direction in terms of what to do, we have decided to redeploy those teachers into the classroom to serve kids in person.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions on finance? Thank you very much. All right, item F, Superintendent's report.
I want to just very quickly recognize and thank Josh Gray, our multimedia specialist and just an incredible addition to our Estacada School District team. For those of you who are watching remotely, and there are several people who are watching remotely, as well as the people who are in attendance today, we have made some considerable improvements to our Board of Directors room. Primarily Josh, has been working around the clock to make sure that this is ready to go for tonight's board meeting and to service our community, this room to service our community in different ways. The Estacada School District, led by its Executive Board of Directors, are committed to best-in-class service to our community, and we intend to be as transparent as we can be about the businesses, operations, and decisions that this school district is making. But we also recognize that we need to make these transparent and best-in-class upgrades on a very shoestring budget, because the money should be prioritized to our kids in our classrooms. And so a lot of these TV screens have been repurposed from some of our pandemic televisions inside the classrooms that are no longer in use. Again, we could have subcontracted this for maybe tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands. And Josh, by his generosity, has been willing to do this on his own, and we've been able to do this in-house to save costs considerably. So I do just want to recognize publicly one of our great high-achieving, high-performing employees, Josh, in the investment of this room, and I can't wait for it to serve our community in so many different ways, starting with a new strategic plan this January as we renew that. I also want to, as the superintendent, and again on behalf of the school district, share my condolences as well to the Shibahara family. Tim Shibahara is a pillar inside this community and was a tremendous stakeholder, and the Estacada community is a better place because he was a part of it. I have deep respect for this family. This family is deeply respected, and our thoughts and prayers are with Director Shibahara and her family. We've lost a family member, and it's been very tragic for our entire community. And I wanted to recognize that again. And thank you, Chair Idell, for your kind words as well. Our administrators officially return next Monday for our leadership kickoff retreat. And when I say retreat, I don't want the public to misunderstand that. It will be right here in this room is where that retreat will be in Estacada School District. And so I'm very excited to welcome back our hardworking leaders. A lot of them have worked around the clock this summer to make sure that our school district is ready to serve our children as they come back for a brand new school year. We also are onboarding our newly hired employees, from bus drivers to classified personnel to new classroom teachers, a part of our school family. Very excited to indoctrinate them on our mission, vision, and values, and what sets Estacada apart from potentially other school districts or other work experiences that they've had in the past. I also just want to share with the board and thank the board for their support. Over the course of the last 3 weeks, it's been a tornado for myself and other leaders inside our school district. 3 weeks ago, I had the opportunity to represent Estacada on the center stage in a major conference in Fresno, California, for school districts in the Central California region who are struggling based on state metrics. And I got to share the Estacada way to several, in fact 90 school districts inside Central California. The next week, I got to take that same opportunity to do the same with school districts in the Milwaukee, Wisconsin school area. And I was joined by Mike Ware in operations and 2 of our elementary school principals to share our story. And then last week, I think, or this week, one of them, I was in Eugene, Oregon as well to be able to share our story to superintendents and building principals throughout the state of Oregon. As I did the math in Fresno, California, 1.1 million students were represented by the school districts who were in attendance, 750,000 students in Wisconsin, and just the same here in Oregon. And so the Estacada Way might potentially get to touch the lives of millions of children thanks to this experience. And so I want to thank you for your support in that, and just so proud to share all of the hard work that we've done, and we get to share that, and it may just make a difference in another school community's life. And they get to thank Estacada for that, and that makes me proud as well. I also want to give a special thanks to our custodial staff. Thank you, Director Johnson, for recognizing our grounds and maintenance team as well. As Mike Ware talked about, I had the privilege of touring each and every school building this week just to see how our progress was going as we were getting ready to welcome kids back. It's been a busy summer. It's also important to note that it's been a shorter summer as we start school a week sooner than normal, which put a bigger scramble for our team as they try to welcome back our employees and our students. They've done so in such an honorable fashion, and I think you'll be pleased with what this school district will look like on day one. And I do want to remind us that we've got 3 weeks until that happens, and things are looking great. Another great thing that we'll share probably in September or October, but I do want to recognize Christina Irish and our finance team, Kirsten Johnson of payroll, Tracy Gaither of accounts payable, and Jenny Durand of the athletics department. I had the pleasure, and it was a true pleasure, and it's not often one gets to say that they get pleasure in sitting in an audit meeting. But I've been a part of now 5 audit exit meetings, and what you will be reported to by our third-party, nonpartisan auditors is that this audit was, in fact, our best of all 4 years. And that's a tremendous credit to Christina Irish and her team and their ability just to make our finances that much more transparent, that much more ethical in terms of the degrees of separation and the way that we can hold ourselves accountable to our community of doing a great job. And I want to say capital G-R-E-A-T, a great job with taxpayers' funds. And so I'm very excited about that, and I want to thank you and your team for that as well. If the board will indulge me, I do have 2 important statements that I would like to be noted for the public record that is in representation. I believe of our school district. I am receiving a considerable amount of emails from our parents and community right now with concerns about the pandemic and the increased information and or concern about face coverings potentially being worn at the beginning of the school year. We are aware that the Gresham-Barlow School District is considering this and has made decisions on it. We're aware of Portland Public and other school districts in the metro area who are moving in this direction. I do want to state on behalf of the school district that at this time the Estacada School District has no intention of starting the school year with face coverings. The state of Oregon and Clackamas County has not indicated anything in such nature that we would be required to offer face coverings, and so the stance of the Estacada School District still remains the same as it was when we ended school last year, and that is we support parental choice. If a family chooses to have their child come to our school district wearing a face covering, they are more than welcome to do that, and they will be welcomed like any other student in our school district. But if a family chooses not to send their children to the school district with a face covering, that's absolutely okay. And so I just wanted to take a moment to clarify that for our families, that at this time we have no intentions of increasing the safety regulations of our students, which would include a face mask. I also want to inform our community that we, at the beginning of the school year, will be implementing a new language arts curriculum to our kindergarten through 8th grade level and range. I want to let our parents know that even though politically curriculum is a very hot topic political issue, that the curriculum that is being introduced and taught inside the Estacada School District has been vetted heavily by our local Estacada community, by our local Estacada parents, and by board members as well. I want to thank again Director Walper, who was a part of one of those meetings, as they got to take a deeper look into what our curriculum looks like. And so, again, as things come up or concerns come up, the Estacada School District is committed to having conversations one-on-one with families as concerns arise and as we try to collaborate together to educate your children together. But that being said, I just wanted to clarify that this is not an agenda that we're trying to push. This is not curriculum that we are blindly giving. This is a curriculum and a curriculum process that took over a year to install, and it had heavy, heavy, heavy community support and participation in that process. And I wanted to share that as well. And lastly, in your superintendent's report, one last piece of data to celebrate, and it breaks the mold, and that is the Estacada School District is returning its employees to the tune of a 92% retention rate. And in the world where teachers are leaving the profession in droves, where our neighboring school districts all around the state of Oregon and the United States of America are turning people over left and right, I am so proud that our school district and the relationships that our community has built with its employees, 92% of them are returning for next year. And I think that is a direct result of a strong culture inside the school district that we've built together. I think it's a direct result of great community support. The Estacada community loves its school district, and I think it shows. And last but not least, I think it's due diligence and commendation to the Estacada Board of Directors for its competitive compensation package in a way that recognizes great performance and does what it needs to do to make our educators feel special and valued in a way that they want to return. So a 92% retention rate is industry leading, and I'm very proud of that. So thank you to all of you for your support in making that happen as well. That's your superintendent report.
Great. Thank you, Superintendent Carpenter. I do have not a question, but first day of school, I know historically we have any board members that were able to participate would be at buildings first day. So I'm hoping that that will return again this year. So if you could just help coordinate that
Yes.
and get that message out to the board, that would
Yep.
be fantastic.
It's a great time for another reminder too. This coming Wednesday is a barbecue for our new hires, for anybody who can come to that. And then the following Monday, Tuesday, the following Tuesday is when we do our big reopener extravaganza. And the Board of Directors pays for a nice catered lunch for all employees as they return back to our school for the first day of our employees returning. Since Chair Rydell was unanimously elected again as the chair, he will give a brief 2 to 5 minute. You're the chair, so you can talk as long as you want. But welcome back speech on behalf of the Board of Directors team, and then the lunch will be catered, and so we can break bread with each other to kick off the start of what's going to be a great school year.
Yeah, and I would just advocate if board members can attend those, it really is it's a fun time. That I was at the new employee one last year, and you know, the energy and excitement for new employees that are starting, and it's just a lot of fun to be around it. An opportunity to shake some hands and have some conversations with the new folks and really help to celebrate their arrival to the Estacada School District, I think is vitally important. So, yeah, thank you for coordinating all that for us. I'm doing live this year, right? I don't have to record.
We are back in person, yes.
Well, that means that Josh can't make me look good and edit it, so I'm in trouble.
We'll try our best, though, nonetheless.
All right, any other questions, comments for Superintendent Carpenter? All right. Reports and presentations, there's none there. Discussion, so this has been kicked around for a little bit, so a board workshop scheduling. So I know Vice Chair Wheeler mentioned the B word, and so we really wanted to start looking at calendars and get a board workshop on the books. Unfortunately, Director Shibahara is not here to participate in getting this scheduled, but I would really like to look at getting something on the books September or October. And I know once we get into October, November, that gets really tough. And so I guess I would kick it to the group. How do you guys want to look at potential dates? We can send out a doodle poll or a survey monkey or something that says, you know, what dates work best for you. I think the idea would be to do it, we could either do it before the school board meeting, or we could do it on a separate night if getting here early is more difficult. But again, everybody is busy, and I don't want to just willy-nilly book another day for a meeting. So what are your guys' thoughts on how we can put pen to paper and get something on the books?
First thing is, how much time you think we're gonna?
Thinking 90 minutes, realistically, 90 minutes to 2 hours. The potential for a bond is at the top of that list, talking through what are our plans there. That would definitely be involved. The other part would be additional board events that we can participate in. So whether that's OSBA type scheduled events where we can participate, that goes through boardsmanship and how to effectively, you know, work as a board. There's those types of events. So those would be the top two that are on my mind. But Ryan, was there anything else in there that we were? I think that was it. So
It'd be interesting. We did a walk from, you know, Old Field to the parking lot, continued on to look at other things. I think it'd be good for all of us to see the progress that's been made for all of those items too at some point. Maybe that's not the same because it's not a discussion, but I think it's a good idea to do. It was one thought from me.
okay, I like that.
I appreciate you saying that, because that impromptu kind of Facebook Live walk that we did was heavily watched and wildly successful, and I think led to preventing potential communication problems as to the why the board made the decision that they did. And so I'll work with our communications team on taking some type of an additional tour like that, looking at the projects that we've completed, like the gym floor and some of those things as well with you, so that you can be a part of that. And that just also spurred memory too, now that the world is back open again, quote unquote, I will be trying to reach out to you too to get you back in classrooms again as well, so that the board can see teaching and learning in action.
Awesome.
We also talked about, you know, we have this huge field now that we haven't spent much time looking at. I mean, I've just saw it. I'm on it now, which is great.
It's beautiful.
And then, you know, the woods that are back there as well. We can talk about that. And I don't want to minimize the idea of the discussions that you brought up, but maybe they could happen separately or together. I'm open to either.
Okay. Yeah, I think it would be, the walk, I think, is a glorious idea, because it will give us some visibility on that. I don't want that activity to reduce the amount of time that we have to discuss, right? So, so I guess we could unofficially talk. Would you guys prefer looking at preceding a board meeting? So everything's on one day, but that does put us here, say, by 5 o'clock. Or would you rather do a separate evening, a separate day? Thoughts on that?
For me, I would say during a board meeting earlier would work.
Definitely want to do it in the daylight hours.
Well, this is more specifically talking about the meeting side,
Oh,
not so much the
okay.
walk, but we could integrate it into that as well once we finalize. But yes, you're right. Let's not take a walk in the dark. That doesn't help. Grab your headlights.
Yeah, I prefer before a board meeting as well,
Okay.
but can't go too late, because if we are doing said walk, then it gets dark by 4 p.m. Once we get into the winter.
And I think you'd have to have two events.
I think we'll separate that, yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Director Berman, you got a preference on those?
Nope. Can't hear you.
We can see you really good, though.
Look great.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. So what we'll do then is Denise, if you could send out just a poll to see September board meeting, you know, potentially meeting at 5, October board meeting, do either of those work, do both of those work potentially, and then we can look at do we want to do the meeting first in the September and do the walk in October, or vice versa, do the walk in September because we might have a little better weather, so we can figure that out through that poll, if everybody's good with that.
And it would be great to, as we work through that, to in advance, if there are data points, things of that nature that you'd like either prior to or ready to go, prepared to go for that workshop to help make decisions, that would be great to know too.
So in that poll, could you just put a free type, what things do people want to have available? So
Yeah.
please take some time and, because to your point, if we don't know until we get there, we're not going to have the data available. So we'll put a box in there that everybody can fill in what
Right.
data they'd like to see.
Yeah.
The other thing is, why do we have to wait until there's a board meeting? You know,
do
why couldn't we do have a board meeting and the 90-minute thing prior to that? And 3 or 4 days before or 3 or 4 days afterwards, we do the other one, so we don't stretch it out so long.
We could, and that was the initial question, do we want to do it on an additional day or on the board day? And that was kind of overwhelming. Basically, everybody was preferring on a board day, just from a scheduling standpoint.
Well, I'm retired, so I don't care.
Yes.
We're not there
We're
yet.
not yet.
Just another year, maybe.
Really?
It's just,
Oh, man.
Chair Idell, you mind if I ask another?
Yeah, go for it.
No, go, continue on, let's finish this one.
No, so that's where we were thinking to do them in those two meetings. But again, as we send out the poll, we can add another question there too, if you would prefer to have some other options, throw it in there.
Yeah, I think that if we wait for October to do the walk around, it's going to be getting pretty late.
My preference, not to sway anybody's opinion, but my preference would be to do the walk in September and then do the workshop in October.
The next board meeting is September 14th, right?
Yep.
So,
And when's the first football game?
September 2nd.
Second is the first home game.
Got to do that walkthrough before the game.
We could also do a walkthrough. Okay,
By the way, I will be calling each and every board member up at halftime in the game while we dedicate the field at the beginning, or at halftime. So for those that are there, I will have you on the fictitious, most likely stage that will be there. So just a heads up on that.
Okay, we'll get the poll out then, and then we'll circle back if we want to change that, but that's going to be the big one. The other thing is I do want to make sure that Director Shibahara is able to participate in the workshop as well, which is why I'm thinking to push that one out a little bit.
Yep.
That one's not as time sensitive
Yep.
in all reality. So,
Yeah.
okay. Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate that very much. On to item I, hearing of citizens for action items. Denise, do we have anybody?
No.
Okay. On to J, the consent agenda. I read this every month. I don't think I need to read it. Do I need to read it every month?
You probably should.
Okay, I will. I will read it every month. The consent agenda includes a package of one or more items to be voted on as a unit. However, if any board member is not in favor of one or more agenda items and prefers to take separate action, a request to the chair anytime prior to the vote will remove that item for separate vote. So on to item J, the consent agenda.
Chair Idell, I move to accept the consent agenda as presented.
second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, raise your right hand. On to item K, this is split between, there it is. To the annual resolutions, to approve the annual resolutions.
Chair Idell, I move to approve the annual resolutions for 22-23 fiscal year.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Question on the non-resident student tuition. What's that?
Go ahead.
How do we get that money?
Well, we don't, only because we've never charged anybody. Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I suppose by policy, if we were to say, we're sorry, we're full, however, for $9,500, we would accept you as a student. then that's how that would work. But we've never done that.
Okay.
But we have to set what that tuition rate is because we do have the ability to do that within
That's
the
right.
policy
Yeah.
and procedures.
By law, we have to have
We
that
have to
in
have it
place.
set.
So we're not charging this kid $10 and this kid $10,000 to come to our school. So we do have to make sure that we're fair in that process. Another example of when that could potentially happen is when a school district where the family resides says, no, we do not accept you leaving to go to the Estacada School District. So they would then collect the ADM for that student, but we would maybe say, yes, we will take you. And that's where we'd say, you need to pay your fair share because a different school district is collecting your fee.
How would they collect their ADM if they're not sitting in a class?
Those are good questions, yeah. And in theory, they wouldn't. After 10, they would at least get 10 days of fees for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you come up with that number?
The state determines that number.
Oh, okay.
And based on if they are served with special education, if they're a student who is in the poverty threshold, if they're pregnant, if they're learning English as a second language, then we would get additional revenue on top of that just because of the needs that the child has coming in.
So that's the same number for every school in the state of Oregon?
That's correct.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Yep.
Every public school.
Even though we're
Public
better.
school. Even though we're better. Yes. Amen to that. Statistically, morally, and everything.
Amen.
Yes.
One last question.
Yeah.
In the spirit of audit, talking about the audit earlier, we have Polly Rogers and company on here. Am I on the right one? Yeah. As the auditor for 22, 23, 23, 24. At what point do we search up another one? Because where are we on year 3 or 4 for them?
I want to say 4.
And is there a standard? Because I know in accounting and finance, there's always standards and practices.
No, there's not a standard. The board is responsible, the audit is under the board. The audit reports to the board. So if the board guides me to go out for another, I would not go out unless I had a concern or was directed to by the superintendent or board.
Perfect.
And the last time we moved to Polly Rogers, we had been with the same audit group for
10?
10, 12,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
So,
Historically, I remember the reasoning for moving in that direction was the auditor that we had for the last 10 years. Many school districts were leaving that auditor, and we went with Polly Rogers, who services primarily most of the school districts around the state of Oregon. I don't know if that can be looked at. I guess that could be looked at as a pro and a con, but that was our reasoning for going in that direction.
And I can tell you, there's not a lot of auditors out there that are doing school district right now. The one that we did have, they are no longer.
Oh,
doing-
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you. That answers everything.
any other questions? All right, all in favor, raise your right hand. On to item L, the Director of Finance contract.
Chair Rydell, I move to approve the Director of Finance contract from July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2023.
Oh,
Been moved?
Second.
I need to amend something here, although in the copy I'm looking at, it says through June 30th, 2025.
Oh,
Says in the,
It should be 25, but it's a 3-year contract by law, and so we just need to make sure that.
I'm looking at the board backup, and that is correct.
that's,
Okay, so just to confirm, it's 2025.
So let's, yeah. Double check.
That change.
Hang on, I'm looking at one.
The one from August 3rd at 8:26 a.m.
it says, item number 1 is the term, and it's July 1, 22 to June 30, 25.
Yeah, that's correct.
There we go.
Yep. Okay.
Can we,
Can we, sorry.
sorry, go ahead, Chair Rado.
So can we get a motion to make an amended,
you want me to just restate it?
just with the
There
new
you
date
go.
would be
Yep.
great, yeah.
Chair Rydell, I move to approve the Director of Finance contract from July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2025.
Second.
Sorry for the typo there.
No, thanks for catching it. Any discussion? As Superintendent Carpenter said, it's a tough job to do, and it's an even tougher job to take over for somebody. So
Yeah.
I can tell you, as a finance guy, the transparency, the clarity is very, very helpful when we're looking at this. And I still ask questions, and I appreciate you being willing to answer those. And but just appreciate all the work and effort you put into recognizing the desire of the district to be transparent and handle finances the way that they truly should be handled. So thank you for that. Okay, any other discussion? All right, all in favor, raise your right hand. On to item M. M is in mower. Authorize the facility use agreement. I was looking at facility, that's why I went mower.
Chair Rydell, I move to authorize the Estacada School District to implement the following facility use rental fee schedule for the 2022-2023 school year as presented.
Perfect, it's been moved.
Second.
Second, moved and seconded. Discussion, questions?
Yeah, I'm just curious if this were pulled from other districts as well.
Yeah.
And I know that it's in there somewhere. For nonprofit organizations that are utilizing services, usually have a facility use agreement. I'm assuming those are wrapped within these.
Yep.
So mostly this is outside organizations that are not affiliated with any
Yep.
school districts.
So we have it identified as really 4 groups, and I'll see how good I can do here. But the first is school-sponsored. The second is like youth-level organizations or community-sponsored activities. The third would be a nonprofit, has a different fee scale, and then the fourth would be a for-profit.
Thank you. That's identified through A, B, and C, and D. Thanks.
Correct. How did I do on those, by the way?
Amazing.
Okay. Awesome.
To take that one step further, the local youth organizations also complete a facility use agreement that
Correct.
I'm assuming may be less than what we're agreeing to here, but cannot exceed what is on this as our facilities, or are those completely separate?
Correct. They're separate in the extent of they do follow that policy that we do have to have a working agreement between the school district organization and the community youth athletic organization, and it's through that policy that kind of strengthens that process. And it's always been the board of directors' determination in conjunction with the community to not charge a fee for the facilities use in an effort to keep costs down for our own students who participate in that. We will need to have a conversation at some point about trying to potentially partner with the city more as we open up these back 20 acres. We're kind of doing cost analysis right now on what it costs to paint the fields and that kind of stuff at paint prices. That is going to impact us in different ways. And so we still want to minimize the fee that a family pays to participate in this, but costs are rising, and we need to have that conversation.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, all in favor, raise your right hand.
Motion carries.
Item N, for the PACE property and casualty insurance coverage.
Chair Adele, I move to authorize Estacada School District to make a payment to PACE in the amount of $316,601 for the property casualty coverage for 2022, 2023.
Again.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? I know previously the question came up, was cyber covered in that, so I'm assuming, but since the question came up before, let's ask it again.
Well, it needs to be recognized first and foremost that without that, we would have been in trouble. Like, that was a great catch, I think, by Director Johnston and others. But we were vulnerable in cybersecurity, which we were able to rectify. So thank you for volunteering for this position, Director Johnston. You saved the district. Yeah.
Vulnerable from a liability standpoint, not
Correct,
a system
yes.
vulnerable, right? So let's just make sure we're clarifying where that vulnerability
Good
was
point.
coming
From a liability perspective, we were vulnerable to, yes.
And I'm happy to report that we do have cybersecurity coverage under the PACE. The limit, we have a 5 million, which is the entire pool. So anybody within PACE has a 5 million. Of that, we have up to 2 million that we can use. But if 5 million is already used, then we have nothing. So that, and just to let the board know, district has worked with our agent of record, and we are still trying to get a second coverage. We filled out our application this week and turned it in. So we are trying to get coverage outside of that to continue our good coverage.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, any other questions on the property and casualty coverage? All right, all in favor, raise your right hand.
Motion carries.
Item O for ELA instructional materials.
Chair Idell, I move to authorize the Escada School District to postpone the purchase of the ELA instructional materials for 1 year.
Second.
Can we discuss this?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, so I don't know if that would be,
Sure.
yeah, so can you just walk us through
So
that?
just a little bit of the why behind it is each and every year, the state requires all public school districts there's a curriculum adoption schedule. So this year is English language arts, next year is math, the year after that is social studies, science, et cetera. And so it goes in a big loop. By law, believe it or not, we are required to purchase new curriculum each and every year based on that cycle. Obviously, there are extenuating circumstances, like in a budget shortfall, in an economic crisis, a school district would choose to retain its teachers over purchasing its textbooks, would be an example. And so by law, the school board has to vote to not adopt curriculum because we're saying basically we realize it's the law, but we're choosing to divert our money in a different direction to serve our kids and community different. That's not the case in this one. The case in this one is our comprehensive committee was heavily involved at the K-8 level, and we were never able to get to a full consensus on the 9th through 12th grade. And so since we're starting the fiscal year and we're past the deadline, what we're basically asking is that we just delay the 9th through 12th grade through this year as well, so we can select one that's appropriate for our community, which we have not reached consensus on yet.
So we retain all those funds, right? Because they're already dedicated to
That's
that,
correct.
so we're just getting-
And they
so we
carry
have math
over.
next year.
That's right. Yep. So, and just again, out of full transparency, we budget $400,000 a year for curriculum. And so if we spend $250,000, or I know it's more than that here, but then that would carry over because it's in its own special account.
So the next year would be the ELA plus math?
The
that we're
912
adopting.
ELA and math. Yep. If the board chooses to do so. Yep.
Just a point of clarification, should we say that this is just for 9-12 in the motion? Or 9th through 12th grades in the motion, because we are doing K-8, and you recognize that earlier that we're adopting that.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I would say that this is more of a formality that the Department of Education just requires that we show proof of minutes,
Okay.
that it was delayed. But
And all the board backup says that it's 9th through 12th grade.
correct. So I feel good about it, and I think
discussion.
our public conversation on this should clarify that.
Perfect.
But that's a great question.
So just, again, just to clarify it in one sentence, so we are adopting new ELA curriculum for K-8.
Correct.
And we are delaying the adoption of new curriculum for 1 year for 9-12 so that we can continue to research and recommend what we want to go with.
Correct. And I believe the board adopted that K-8 curriculum in the June board meeting. And so it's defined there as well.
Okay. I'm good. Any other questions, comments? All right. All in favor, raise your right hand. On to P, hearing of citizens for non-action items.
None.
All this room and nobody here to ask questions. So with that, then I'm going to move to Q and adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everybody.